supposed to get married, you're living together.
He did cheat on me.
We weren't engaged. It was more like a promise ring.
Well, you certainly weren't just roommates.
All rise for Judge Joe Brown.
What? You
Experience, knowledge, and a passion for the truth.
protecting womanhood and promoting manhood.
Bringing no-nonsense justice to Americans everywhere.
If you listen, you might learn something.
It's time for Judge Joe.
A woman scorned can't escape the dirty details of her breakup. College student Alexis is suing her ex-fiancé for back rent and fees. Defendant Oliver Bierman says he paid all the rent after the plaintiff left. Now it's Joe time.
Connie Peck is suing your ex-boyfriend, Mr. Beer. Currently, you two got apart, as I understand it. You say you felt he was unfaithful to you, so you moved out. You say he agreed to finish out the lease. Well, he did, but he didn't give written notice that he was moving out, so the lease rolled over. Now they're coming after you, even though they know he's moved out. And your defense, sir, is basically whatever she's had to pay as a result of the current situation is no more than you had to pay when she defaulted on her obligations under the lease. Okay, let's see what it's all about. 12/24/10, you two got engaged. How sweet. Now, some months later, you both signed a year-long lease at $625 a month. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, what happened on January 13th of this year which caused you to have a problem?
Well, things have been kind of rocky between Oliver and myself, and he was always really jealous of me hanging out with my friends and doing things like that. And he would accuse me of cheating on him, even though that was definitely not the case. So after a while, I began to be suspicious that maybe he was the one that was
you
cheating.
detected, what do they call it, projection, defense mechanism. The one that's doing something typically accuses the opposite of being the one that's doing it. It's a displacement, a defense mechanism.
He was always real protective of his cell phone and things like that. So one day, it was uncharacteristic of him, but he left his
Untended.
phone. Yeah.
Wide open.
Yeah. So, we were engaged, and I wouldn't usually do something like that, but I was like, I need to know. So I looked in his phone, and I saw a conversation between him and
Conversation?
another woman.
Conversation is when you speak. Correspondence.
A
What you're
correspondence.
talking about.
So I was reading it, and it was talking about details of Oliver and my sex life.
So you moved out on him?
Well, he was talking to her, telling her, that he was thinking about leaving me to be with her. So I confronted him about it, and he was like, "You're totally wrong. That was just my friend. Like, you read it out of context, etc."
So now, let's cut to the chase. You decided you're going to get upset, you move out. You break the lease.
Well,
See, that's what you don't think about. This is not playtime. These aren't your parents. These people are in the business of earning their living or enhancing their circumstances by renting this property out either as a corporate entity or as an individual so they can make money. So they've got a lease.
Well, Oliver and I signed an agreement that...
But the agreement is not compelling or binding on the landlord.
Yes, but we did agree that he would carry out the lease. And
He did?
Well, I got a letter in August saying, from the lawyer representing the rental company, saying that we owed over $1,500 because Oliver did not terminate the lease of our apartment, and he moved out without returning the keys or anything like that.
So they want $1,500.
Yes.
That's on the rollover lease.
Yeah, because it automatically renewed our lease.
That's rollover.
So we got charged for 2 months' rent, as well as late fees, and we were also charged a $90 cleaning fee because Oliver did not clean the apartment before he left. He left it dirty.
$1,500.
Yes, and that's
the total.
That's the total after they took out our security deposit. And I moved out January 15th, and I paid the entire month of January, and I also paid for all of the utilities for the entire month as well.
But who paid the 3.5 months rent?
I did. I carried out the lease.
So what would you have paid for 3.5 months if you had not defaulted on your lease obligations?
But I also...
$900 some odd dollars.
But
And then when you talk about the cleanup fee, your share of that would have been half of that.
Well, if I had been there, I would have returned the keys, I would have terminated the lease.
Yes, but why didn't you check on that? Remember, you put it down. You left it. So you're going to trust your fiscal well-being to him? In other words, your money situation? You put your business in his hands? You know, take care of this for me.
Well, I left on the lease, but at the same time, you know, he cheated on me, and he admitted later that he did cheat on me with her.
Let's stop right there. You tell me your side of things, because the resolution is obvious from looking at the facts both of you agreed to. You tell me what happens. Why didn't you take the time to pay attention? I bet you didn't even realize it because you hadn't read the lease.
Yes, that's right. And also,
I thought so.
to take a few steps back, the only reason we lived in the area was because she didn't have a vehicle and it was closer to her campus, so she could be in walking distance of the campus. And since I had the vehicle, I kind of took the plunge and I was like, I'll drive to work since I have the full-time job and the vehicle. She moved out. I agreed to carry out the lease, which I did. You know, I carried out the lease until she was gone to keep me from going after her name or ruining credit or whatever it does. Again, I didn't read the lease, and I was just really excited to sign my name anywhere they told me to, just to get into the apartment. It's my first apartment. I'm a young man, high hopes. So basically, we weren't engaged. It was more like a promise ring. She just kind of, I don't know where she got the idea that it wasn't engagement. I mean, a ring doesn't say, you know, anything
Well, you
outside.
certainly weren't just roommates.
No, that I wouldn't say that we were just roommates. No, we were a little more than that. We were roommates. We shared a promise ring, and no disrespect.
We'll be right back with Judge Joe Brown.
You signed on it, so when you sign to commit yourself to something, you're stuck with it generally, and the world doesn't work on I changed my mind.
And later today,
I had to see it to believe it because
realized it would auto-renew once he left. Let's see what the judge thinks.
The way I look at it, if you had dealt with your lease obligations, you signed on it, so when you sign to commit yourself to something, you're stuck with it generally, and the world doesn't work on I changed my mind.
Well, I think...
So hold on. He took over the balance of the lease, and what he paid out for you, interestingly enough, works out to about what they're asking you to pay for the remainder of your connection with that apartment complex. In other words, the 3 months after everything fell apart. So you both were supposed to pay half the rent, so the equitable solution is that both of you should pay half of what happened when the lease rolled over. If he had been knowledgeable of the situation, you would have gotten out of 3.5 months of the lease. So I don't think it's equitable. That works out you owe her $765.50 for your share of the balance and your cost.
The plaintiff made sure the relationship was terminated, just not the lease or that nasty rollover. She shares some liability here and gets just a reduced judgment. We're on to the next case.